My shameless family claimed they were skipping vacation too expensive. But later my card was hit with charges, a luxury resort, private chef and sunset cruise for 5. I quietly disputed everything and froze the wallet. The next day I got a message from my aunt. "We're stranded in the lobby." "Why?" I replied, "Budgeting, remember." Hours later my dad sent 13 voicemails. The last one ended in screams because I actually believed them. When my mom said the trip was too expensive this year, I didn't question it. She'd started dropping hints back in March, saying the flights were outrageous and that maybe we'd skip our annual family vacation. My dad added that it just wasn't the right time financially. Emma, my older sister, chimed in, saying she and her boyfriend were trying to save for a car. Alyssa, the youngest, said maybe we could all just hang out at a lake nearby. It sucked, but I didn't push. We've always taken these trips together. Some of my best memories are from those weeks: clumsy snorkeling, bad sunburns, late-night drinks on the balcony. I figured this year would just be different, more grown-up, less fun. That's life. So I moved on, or at least I thought I had. Then, on a Thursday evening, I was at home sorting through summer seats when I noticed something weird. A $3,400 charge from a Hawaiian resort popped up on my credit card app. I stared at it. The name of the place was familiar, one of the nicer hotels I'd actually suggested months ago. My first thought was fraud. My second thought was denial. But then I saw more charges: a $1,200 private chef service, another $1,900 to a yacht company and multiple smaller ones, all booked within hours of each other. The kicker: the guest name for the resort reservation was my dad's, slightly altered, not stolen, not random familiar. I called the credit card company. The rep asked if I'd authorized the charges. I said no. She asked if anyone else might have access. That's when something inside me just clicked. The password on the account was my birthday. I sat there in silence for a while, not even angry, just stunned. They hadn't canceled the trip, they'd canceled me. They wanted the vacation, just not with me. I didn't want to believe it, but there were 5 guests listed in the confirmation email that came with the card statement: my parents, Emma, her boyfriend and Alyssa. That was it, everyone but me. I didn't call them, I didn't text. I froze the card, disputed every charge and flagged the account for fraud. American Express was on it immediately. Apparently, all the spending from a single location raised a red flag. Anyway, the next morning, around 7 a.m., I got a message from an unknown number. "We're stranded in the lobby, why?" I stared at it. Then it clicked. The message was from my aunt's phone. My guess: they'd either drained their own phones or were avoiding using them to leave a paper trail. Either way, they were locked out of their resort. The charges didn't go through. No yacht, no chef, no rooms. I typed back, "Budgeting, remember." Then I turned off my notifications and made coffee. By noon my voicemail had 13 new messages, all from my dad. The first few were calmly furious. Then they turned emotional, then desperate. By the end you could hear Emma crying and someone yelling in the background. They didn't just steal my money, they excluded me, lied to me and used me to fund their dream vacation, a vacation I wasn't even invited to. And in that moment, listening to my dad scream into the phone, I knew one thing for sure: this wasn't going to end with a voicemail. The weirdest part was how quiet it got afterward: no more calls, no texts, nothing from any of them. For almost 24 hours. After the voicemail meltdown I didn't know if they were still stuck in that lobby or if they'd figured something out. But the silence was louder than anything they'd screamed. Before that night I ordered takeout and tried to zone out with a movie, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not just the money, the whole betrayal. I kept replaying their conversations in my head. Their weirdly synchronized excuses. The way they all played along with the story that Hawaii was off the table this year. They'd actually spent weeks setting this up behind my back. Using my birthday as the password was the part that stuck in my throat the hardest. They didn't just lie, they planned this. And I wasn't just angry, I felt stupid. I woke up the next morning to the sound of someone knocking. I live in a secure building, so that usually means a delivery. I opened the door and, sure enough, an envelope hand-delivered, no postage. It was from a law office I recognized. My dad had used the same lawyer when he set up his will a few years ago. The note inside was awkward and vague. It wasn't a threat exactly. It read more like damage control. Basically said, they were aware of a misunderstanding involving financial access and were hoping to resolve this amicably without legal action. It ended with a handwritten note from my dad saying we should talk as a family. Too late the night before I'd already called Jason, my attorney. He and I went to school together and he's the guy I call when I need something handled properly. When I told him what happened, he was quiet for a second. Then he said, let's ruin their trip. We filed the case that afternoon, unauthorized use of a credit card, identity fraud and damages. The total was $9,600. But Jason included additional claims for legal costs, misuse of private financial information and emotional distress. We weren't just demanding repayment, we were demanding consequences. And then they came crawling. Emma was the first. She left a long voice message while crying, said they were so sorry and didn't mean for it to hurt me like this, claimed they only used my card because they didn't know how to ask and they thought I wouldn't notice that they just wanted one nice trip together before Emma's boyfriend had to start a new job out of state. I hadn't said I wasn't going on the trip. They'd made that decision on their own. They'd lied, excluded me and then used my money to celebrate without me. Emma's boyfriend even got on the call and tried to guilt me, saying he'd pay me back in chunks once he got his first few paychecks. That was rich, considering I'd been covering their rent for the past 7 months. $1,200 a month. No, thank you. No appreciation, just entitlement. I cut them off the same night, logged into my banking app, deleted the scheduled transfers and sent them both a single message, rent's no longer covered, handle it. Alyssa was next. She sent one word, please. That was all. No explanation, no apology, just that one desperate little ping like she was hoping I'd crack. I didn't even open the chat again. Then came my mom. Her message was long but empty. She said they were all just stressed that they weren't thinking clearly, that they'd never meant to hurt me like this. She kept repeating that they just wanted a vacation. Like that made it okay. Like the word vacation was some kind of moral loophole. She tried to make it sound like it wasn't really theft, like it was a misunderstanding, like maybe deep down I would understand why they did it. But I didn't, because here's the truth, they didn't just steal from me. They stole with intention. They left me out with intention and then they hoped I'd be too naive or too soft to do anything about it. Jason updated me 2 days later. Their lawyer had contacted him asking if I'd consider dropping the lawsuit in exchange for a quiet repayment and a family meeting to rebuild trust. I told Jason this, we'll talk after the money's in my account and the damages are paid in full. Until then, the court date stays. They gambled on me being the nice one, the forgiving one, the easy target. But I'm not the one stranded in a resort lobby wondering how things went so wrong. A week passed by. Then the court paperwork had reached them officially and I guess reality started to sink in. I got a call from an unknown number I didn't recognize. I let it ring out. Then another. Finally, a message came through. It was my dad. He didn't yell this time. No guilt trip, no rage, just tired, flat words. He said they were back home, that they were sorry, that they didn't expect everything to go so far, that they were working on getting the money together and wanted to settle things quickly. The same man who screamed at me from a Maui lobby days earlier was now practically whispering through the phone. I didn't respond. I knew exactly what they were doing, trying to talk me down. Before the court hearing made it all official. I'd already told Jason I wasn't backing off, not unless every dollar showed up plus the extra. We were asking for damages. And even then I still wasn't sure I wanted anything to do with them anymore. Later that afternoon Emma texted again. This time she tried a new angle. She said they'd taken out a personal loan from one of our uncles to repay the amount. She begged me to drop the case. Said court would be a disaster for the family, said it was already tearing everyone apart. But no one seemed worried about the family when they were sipping cocktails on a balcony I paid for. When they booked a private sunset cruise under my name and posed for smiling selfies they didn't think I'd ever see. Emma ended the message by asking if I could restart her rent payments. Just for one more month, just until she got back on her feet. I didn't answer. Instead I messaged the leasing office of her building and her boyfriends and told them I'd no longer be listed as an emergency guarantor. I'd been paying for them like clockwork every month while they shopped, ate out and planned a Hawaiian heist behind my back. That stopped now all of it. Then came Alyssa. She was quieter than the others through all of this. Never really confrontational, she finally reached out and said she'd do whatever it takes to make it up to me. She said they'd all made a horrible mistake and that they were scared of what this would do to our family long term. I wanted to believe her, but the truth is they weren't scared until they got caught, until the free ride came to a hard stop. Jason called me that Friday. He said the family's lawyer had sent over a draft agreement offering full repayment within 30 days, plus an additional $3,000 to resolve emotional distress and avoid court. The money, apparently, was coming from a relative, not from my parents. They were borrowing it to stay out of court. I told him, fine, but the agreement would include one more clause, no contact after the money was paid. I didn't want to hear from them. No calls, no messages, no fake reconciliations, just silence. I signed the document that afternoon. They had 30 days to pay in full, no delays, no excuses. And even though I technically won, it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like walking away from something rotten that had finally fallen apart. They used me, lied to me, mocked me behind my back, and now they were doing everything they could to avoid losing the one thing that actually mattered to them, not me, not the relationship, just the money. By the time the settlement deadline came close, I honestly expected them to screw it up, either ask for another extension, throw some last-minute excuse or suddenly pretend they had no idea the payment was due. But on a random Tuesday morning, Jason texted me a single screenshot. Wire transfer confirmation, the entire $9,600 plus $3,000 in damages, transferred into my account from a trust account tied to our Uncle Mark. No note, no message, just the money. Uncle Mark and I aren't particularly close. He's always been on the sidelines at holidays, polite but distant. Apparently, my parents had gone to him in desperation, pitching some edited version of the story that made them sound like victims of a misunderstanding. Either way, he agreed to float them the money. He's smart enough to know it wasn't a misunderstanding, though I think part of him just wanted the whole thing off the family radar. Before it got earlier, Jason asked if I wanted to drop the court hearing. Now that everything was settled we could file a joint dismissal. He said quick and easy. But I said no, I wanted it official on record. I wanted a courtroom to recognize what happened, not just a personal repayment between relatives, but a legal confirmation of what they did. So we showed up in court. They didn't. Their lawyer was there, carrying a manila folder and looking more embarrassed than combative. He handed the clerk our signed agreement plus the payment verification and didn't say much. The judge flipped through the documents, checked the timestamps, then looked at Jason and me and nodded, full repayment has been made. He said. Court acknowledges the plaintiff's claim as valid emotional distress. Compensation awarded and enforced. Case closed. That was it. No drama, no screaming, just a clean ruling stamped and filed. But I wasn't walking out of that courtroom relieved, if anything. It felt like the beginning of something worse, because 3 days later the lies started spreading. At first I ignored it. I got a weird message from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. Hey, I heard what happened. Are you okay? Then another, this time from a family friend, asking if I was really going to take legal action over a gift. Apparently, my parents had spun the entire story into some warp-sob tale. They told people I offered to pay for the trip, that I promised to cover it, and then turn on them and sued out of nowhere. They said I blindsided them, lied to them that I was holding on to some deep grudge and used the courts to humiliate the family. I didn't even respond. What was I supposed to say? No one was there when I got the charges. No one heard those screaming voicemails. No one saw the way they locked me out of something we always did together and then used my credit card like it was a free ride they were owed. I started getting vague subtweets, distant relatives liking posts about loyalty and family forgiveness. A few unfollowed me. One aunt blocked me after I refused to explain my side of the story. They didn't want the truth. They wanted to preserve the myth that my parents were good people who just made a small mistake, that I was the selfish one for not letting it go. But I didn't need their approval anymore. I didn't need group chats where everyone pretended nothing happened. I didn't need birthday cards from people who saw me as nothing more than an ATM. I didn't want any of it. What they took from me wasn't just money, it was trust. And they didn't just lose it, they burned it. Weeks passed, the court ruling was final, the money was in my account and I was pretending to move on. On the surface things were quiet. No messages from them, no attempts to reach out. But silence doesn't always mean peace. I found out by accident. It started with a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally I'd let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. A woman introduced herself as a leasing agent for a building in Oregon. She said she was verifying my information as a cosigner on an apartment application for Emma, except I never agreed to be a cosigner. Apparently, Emma had filled out a rental application at a new complex under cosigner. She'd listed my name, my number, and my employer. She must have figured I'd never find out or hoped the agent wouldn't actually call. The lie was so lazy it was insulting. I told the agent I had no involvement with the application and she immediately flagged it, said it wasn't the first time someone tried to sneak through a fake cosigner. I asked her to email me a copy for documentation. 15 minutes later I had a scanned copy of the form. Emma had forged my signature. My own sister had literally signed my name and submitted it like it was nothing. I forwarded it to Jason. He called me 2 hours later and his exact words were, "Are they trying to go to jail?" We could have pressed criminal charges, forgery, fraud, attempted misrepresentation. Jason said we'd have a strong case if I wanted to pursue it, but I didn't decide right away. I was still sitting with the fact that even after everything, she was still trying to use me behind my back. The next day I finally cracked and called my dad. It wasn't about forgiveness. I wanted to see what kind of person he really was, if there was anything left of the dad I grew up with, the one who used to take me camping and taught me how to drive. He picked up after one ring. I asked him if he knew about Emma's forged rental application. There was a pause and then he said it calmly, like he had nothing left to lose. She needed a place to live. "Jack, we all need to stick together. You've made that harder." I asked him if he'd helped her do it. He didn't say no. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You'll regret this. We're still your parents." That was it not. I'm sorry, not. I didn't know. Not even denial, just a quiet threat masked as a guilt trip. After we hung up, I forwarded everything, the rental application, the forged signature, my call notes, to Jason. This time I told him. We pursue charges if anything like this happened again. I also contacted Emma's leasing office directly and informed them of the forgery. They thanked me and told me the application was being denied and flagged across their partner properties. I didn't feel guilty. I felt done. Then something strange happened. About a week later I got a letter in the mail, real paper, no return address. Inside was a typed message, "You think this ends in court. You think family forgets, you've made enemies of blood." It didn't say who it was from, but I had a pretty good idea. I gave the letter to Jason. He advised I install a security system and start keeping a record of any further threats. He also said I should seriously consider a restraining order if anything escalated. This was no longer about a vacation or money, this was war. I didn't want it to end this way. Even after everything, the theft, the lying, the forged rental application, I kept thinking there might be some line they wouldn't cross, some instinct that would stop them from burning it all down completely. But whatever line, I imagined was long gone. After that anonymous letter showed up, things got colder and more invasive. Over the next 2 weeks 3 more relatives blocked me, my cousin Rachel, who I used to talk to weekly, unfollowed me and then posted some cryptic status about family betraying family for clout. Someone was feeding them lies, carefully packaged, manipulative garbage. It wasn't just that they were lying, it was how strategic they were being. My dad was calling cousins in Texas telling them I sued the family out of spite. My mom reached out to my old high school friend's mom, apparently to ask for prayers about her broken son. Emma went on social media and posted a black and white photo of our family at a barbecue, captioned, "Some things are broken forever." They were turning me into a villain and I wasn't even in the room. The final straw came from Alyssa. I thought maybe she'd stayed out of the worst of it. She wasn't part of the rental fraud, hadn't been vocal in the smear campaign and had even sent me that one-word message weeks ago, "Please." But then I got tagged in an Instagram story by someone I didn't follow. It was a screenshot of a group chat where Alyssa was laughing with her friends mocking me for laughing up like I was in a movie. She called me a drama queen, said I was obsessed with being the victim, claimed I'd always been the family's weird kid with a hero complex. It was her real name. Her real account. No shame. I didn't even get angry. I just felt something inside me collapse in a way that couldn't be fixed. That night I blocked all of them, every number, every social media handle. I changed my email. I contacted my building and asked them to deny any packages not under my name. I removed every trace of them from my life. And then I sent one message to the family group chat, the last message I will ever send them, "This is goodbye. Not because of the money, not because of the court, because you chose to lie, steal and then blame me for holding you accountable. I was your family. Until the second I stopped being useful. You all made your choices. Now I'm making mine." No one responded, not one of them. But an hour later my cousin Jeff messaged me privately and said, "I heard what really happened. I'm sorry. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." I didn't reply. I appreciated it, but I was past the point of fixing anything. They didn't just lose me, they lost the version of me that cared enough to keep forgiving them, and that version's not coming back. A month has passed since I sent that final goodbye. My life shifted from chaos to a lean, focused version of myself. No drama, no second guessing, just work, a few loyal friends and the quiet luxury of boundaries. I didn't expect anything else. I hoped they wouldn't bother me, but life clearly had other plans. It started on a lazy Sunday morning. I was sipping coffee, skimming through weekend emails, when a plain white package landed on my doormat. No return address again, same as the letter that kicked this downfall off. I half expected another threat. Instead, inside the envelope was something else, a small box, no branding. I opened it carefully, inside a USB stick and a printed note in my sister's handwriting, "Watch this." My heart hit a low beat as I plugged this stick into my laptop. A video file played automatically. I braced myself. What unfolded on screen was chilling, a hidden camera recording from that Maui trip. Their faces in full bliss, my dad hands wrapped around my mom, Emma and her boyfriend laughing on the yacht. Alyssa taking selfies with a cocktail in hand. All of them, no distance, no disguise. And then the moment, Emma held the camera's viewfinder, flashing a grin and saying Jack is going to be so pissed when he sees this. It wasn't fantasy, it was proof that they'd never regretted it. They'd celebrated it, joked about it, filmed it specifically because I wasn't there. No remorse, no guilt, just a private celebration of betrayal. Below the video. Another note, "We wanted you to see we're unapologetic." My skin crawled. That sentence echoed the threat implied in the earlier letter, but with a twist, defiance, not fear, not remorse, but pride. I could have deleted it, I could have thrown the stick away and pretended I never watched, but I didn't. I leaned into it. I forwarded the video to Jason that evening. He called first thing next morning. "We do not have to keep this private anymore." He said, "This crosses the line. Now it's harassment. If they wanted to intimidate you, send it to the court. We can file an injunction, maybe even criminal assault, depending on the jurisdiction." He paused then said quietly, "It's ugly, Jack, but it gives us leverage." I was torn. The legal side of me wanted to expose this as proof of their malice, but another part of me, tired and wary, didn't want to dive back into the mire. Still, there was no denying what they'd done, premeditated cruelty, recorded and delivered like a trophy. That afternoon I did something unexpected. I texted my cousin Jeff, the one who'd reached out after I cut ties. I told him everything about the trip, the court, the letters, and now the video. His response was immediate, "I'm so sorry. What can I do?" I had one ask, "Don't share this with anyone, but if they do it again, even once, I'll take it public and I want you to be ready in case I need a witness." He agreed. That night I drafted a short message to their lawyer and copied our judge. I didn't accuse or threaten, I just stated the facts. I received unsettling recorded evidence intended to intimidate me. I requested a no-contact warning be attached to the case to be triggered if another incident occurred.